Ethereum in 2022. What are your thoughts?
My guess, I still think higher. I still think we actually got a strong run to come. I think this kind of year-long sideways correction that we've essentially had is just a springing board to further gains as more adoption rolls out, more use cases roll out, etc. I think there's a number of factors at play. I think the main factor is if you think of the marginal investor in Bitcoin, the average person, the adoption, right? Those people have seen prices rise 10% in terms of their everyday cost of living, but the wages haven't gone up that much. So what you've taken is marginal consumption away, or their ability to invest, stick a few more dollars into Bitcoin. That has left the market. We've seen network growth slow down. The other thing that happened was obviously the Chinese left the market. And so that's left the market in a slightly less stable way because you've taken out a whole bunch of demand. Now, there are plenty of Chinese still in the market, but you took out a lot of that. So with those two factors and then kind of the overall sort of fear of the tightening of monetary policy and what that could do to other financial markets, you know, if you think there's new participants in this now, there's people like hedge funds. And if they're, you know, one portfolio is blowing up, they end up having to reduce risk elsewhere. So everything starts becoming a bit correlated. So I think those were the primary drivers behind what's been going on. Generally speaking, listen, I understand there's a philosophy to the space and people want there to be, you know, Bitcoin at the base center of money, and that may end up playing out over time. But my job is as an investor, not a philosopher. And my job as an investor is to look for better returns. So a long time ago, about a year and a half ago, I switched most of my Bitcoin holdings into ETH, and then I bought a basket of alts to get different exposure to different parts of the market, because you don't really know what's going to get traction and what's not. So over time, I continued to reallocate my Bitcoin into ETH. I always wanted to keep a bit of Bitcoin because you want to, you know, cheer for the team as well. But also, you know, the thing that I get people, Bitcoin maxes hate me for is like, this is a network and a community. If you are fundamentally awful to people joining your community, people want to leave. And that's just a matter of fact. And if you get picked on every time you say anything that could possibly be perceived as anything negative on Bitcoin, then you, after a while, you think, why even bother? Now, you'd bother if it was outperforming, but it's not. And I think the network growth in Bitcoin has been slower than people have expected, and this is one of the reasons. I mean, institutions just don't like this kind of stuff, the toxicity that can exist. I mean, there's tons of good people in Bitcoin, and, you know, I understand the philosophy, and if that's your point of view on the philosophy, great. But don't attack other people, because then it becomes like a religion.
Raoul Paul, give me a true or false, in your opinion, on this statement. Bitcoin is the most decentralized, the most censorship resistant out of all the cryptocurrencies, and is our one shot to maybe separate money from state.
True.
Okay, just checking. Tyler Winklevoss, Kathy Wood, you know, a lot of notable investors, they believe Bitcoin will reach at least $500,000 per coin, you know, equating to the market cap of gold. Would you agree with that possibility as well?
Yeah, I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Very cool.
And how do you think it gets there?
Yeah.
It gets there, I think. I don't think it's going to be as much retail adoption. I think that moves elsewhere within the crypto Web3 kind of world. I think it's actually going to be driven by sovereign wealth funds, large asset allocation, stuff of that type. I think we're only just starting to see that. But, you know, if it holds true to its hypothesis that it is a base layer of money, then really it should be for those who accumulate base layer of money, people like sovereign wealth funds, central banks, and others. Because in theory, if that's correct, then it's a less speculative or risky asset, therefore it has less returns over time. And that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that. I still think risk adjusted, ETH will do extremely well over time, just because, you know, the reason why it's expensive to use is because it's so damn popular, right? And so, it's like a chain of prestige now for things to be built on, because it is the more decentralized of all of the other layer ones. So it makes sense to me. I think with the change towards ETH 2.0 coming as well, I think that narrative will build over time as well. So I still think the upside in ETH is massive. In terms of market cap, where could it go? It can go another 10x from here in terms of market cap alone. Over what period of time? Who knows?
Do you think Ethereum will flip Bitcoin in 2022, or do you think it'll flip Bitcoin ever?
Yeah, I think it will. Whether it's 2022 or not, don't really have a strong view. My guess is probably. And again, that shouldn't be taken as, oh, ETH's better than Bitcoin. It's like comparing Apple's market cap with Tesla's market cap. They're just two entirely different things, and that's okay. I have no idea. I'm literally no clue. 1 week it looks like it's a terrible FOMO market. So 1 minute it looks like Solana, and the next minute you've missed the run in Terra, and then you've missed AVAX, and then you've missed Polkadot. It's a nightmare. So the answer is I literally have no idea. You notice that there's a huge amount of investors who are very bullish on Terra still, including Remy, who works for me, who was a co-founder of Real Vision, and works for me at Global Macro Investor. He's a big investor in that space, loves it, and a lot of people are. A lot of people that I think are very important investors in the space are very bullish on Polkadot still, and they have been for a long time. It's never really done what everybody expected it to do, but again, you got to keep your mind open to these things. Or it could be something else. Something else comes out of the blue, finds a different use case, and before you know it. So it's really hard to trade this kind of stuff.